What up, family? See ya in the building, man. Good luck. Good Lord. So much going on. Every time I talk, hopefully I got a good connection right here. Trying to break this down for you. Make sure you like that button. Hit that like button, man. So I could bring y'all this information, a little something educational, just so you could make sense, because some of this stuff. Ooh, fake Palmville. That's a Palmville police right there. I ain't never seen one of them. Wow. See, it almost looked like the Belmont uh mixed with the Gastonia, but nah, that's a different kind right there. Palmville police. See them right there going into Chick-fil-A. Yeah, yeah. Man, it was hot out there today. But like I said, man, it's a lot going on with the military right now, that should be telling y'all the next steps, on how they perform and, how they use uh they chemical warfare, to try to do these little tactics, that they about to create these so-called it's an agenda they creating, qualifications. Right now they're trying to fish because they want to see who got the best genes and stuff like that. They're trying to get, more data, DNA, because remember, just like when C-19 and all of that stuff was going on, and they kept saying, it's gonna affect black people and stuff like that more than others. It's like, how did they even know this information, or how, did they just come to that conclusion because of they say that we have bad health and things like that more than other Americans per se, but is it really by choice, or is it really just, something that they are trying to, instill and get us to have fear, and then now we feel inferior because they're telling us that we're sick. So this is what this whole testing, this DNA, that's what this military, this stuff with this testosterone, that's what they're doing. That's what they're getting into. You know what I'm saying? Like they about to have, more strategies on trying to get people's DNA, and then trying to, sell it back to, and trying to get, people to be in this trick bag. That's what they trying to do with the daylight savings. They trying to push time back. Trump is going to address all of that. He about to do the prime time, what you call it, address tonight. It's Thursday, right? So he gonna break down, the elections and all of that. He fired the FBI dude because allegedly he had ties to. What's up? I see y'all in the chat. Allegedly he has some ties to. Hold on, the truck going by. So allegedly he has some ties to CNN or one of them news outlets that was kind of being negative and speaking not too proudly of him. They were kind of like shaming him or being mean. Thank you for them likes. I'm good. I'm good. I'm here. We're doing a stream live like always, breaking down, what's going on with these things in time, what we seeing with the military, to Trump hiring the prosecutor in Seattle, that guy. Then you got the FBI involved with this Washington D.C. thing going on. Even water is poisonous now. Air, you can't breathe it. They got wildfires in Canada. You can't eat lettuce. Certain food got parasites, explosive stuff that's messing people's stomach up. Like, it's a plague we in right now. Everybody dying, everybody's angry, frustrated. Tired, jealous. Uh, a number of things. That we can name. I mean, on and on. That is just not normal for or the norm for what it's been for the past few years. Is like the tension and they're trying to create, especially with the Nolan case. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got that going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's suspicious. They're trying to cause uh critics, to be skeptical and just have this vision in their mind. You know what I'm saying? That they just can't get it out of their head. It's an image that just is repeating over and over again. That got them in a trance to where it's like their feelings matter more than reality and what they were taught, to be respectful than to be combative and, want to have issues and just, causing drama, so that's what's happening. It's a world full of hurt, pain out here. You know what I mean? People, they not thinking with their head, they just, thinking with their heart. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's not working because we see that, so many have gotten hurt already this far. So why keep going with, the mindset or the mentality to, let these people be capable and, not face reality and do what's right and hold them accountable. It's like, it's one sided, it's a gender thing too. It's like, they only let women get away with X, Y, and Z, but then when it comes to men, it's like everything you do, it's a crime. Like, it's gonna be a crime to be a man. So, like, this is what's going on. They trying to put stuff in the food, put stuff in the air, put stuff in the news to try to make you and shape you and make you a certain way when it comes to the DNA and the energy and the nutrition. This is why I tell people nutrition can change your genetics. But all of these young kids, they getting them on trend, on peptides, steroids, and they dying. And America has let it. Like, it's either suicide. Uh, if that don't kill you, then it'll be, you know, having too much STDs or diseases on the rise. And if that don't get you, then it'll be a bad B, a woman with some bad intentions, who either you hurt her feelings or she just was on that woo lady trying to make you go bankrupt, you know, uh, baby mamas, child support. Uh, let's see. Then you got people getting caught up with the cheating or the allegations, this whole thing, and you know, you trying to leave, and now people was like, nah, they take you out, now it's a suicide, murder, all of this crazy stuff. Like, that's just the nature of society right now, And then you got the whole situation going on with the water, the beaches, the bacteria. They saying it's sickening. It's got algae. The water is sewage got dumped in the water in D.C. not too long ago, and then the FBI just charged some people for being up there in them pools, contaminating and tampering with stuff that they didn't have no business doing. Then you got the people jumping up out the sewers and going out in and out the tunnels up there in New York. It's like they acting a fool, man. It's all of these signs and different things that's happening, and then they not preventing it, but then they making warnings, and it's just like the pandemic all over again. But now they saying it's so many people that's homeless, it's impossible to stay inside because we all living in our cars now or outside or whatever. So how are we gonna be able to be contained? The only way they could contain us is if they kill us. So this is what they doing in America right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they playing that game, bro. They upset and they trying to cause division and make you want to be mad and have tension at people for no reason without even listening to the discussion. Just like with the Nolan case, they saying, hey, this man went missing, is something going wrong? Um, what kind of decision are they making out there where they didn't think to investigate further? They just said it was all oh wow. Oh, caught in a little web there. It came out of nowhere, man. Messed up my little train of thought. Oh, but like I was saying, that whole thing came from, it came with politics. It was really about he just didn't want anybody to have anything negative to say. So, once he got hired, he got him out the way, and now he fired him. So it was a whole humiliation type of ritual, that they was pretty much uh trying to get him to engage and just be a part of. That's what that whole thing came down to. It wasn't really nothing that he did per se. It didn't matter if he was good for the job or not. He was through. Trump said he was finished, so that's what he got. That's the ending. That's all she wrote. It's murder she wrote, man. So got that whole situation going on. That test, that's gonna be gold, naturally. If you know how to build it, you know how to contain it because it's actually being sold. Like, they looking for that. People want, so that's what they promote, and that's what they, try to make the standard, you know what I'm saying? And they want to see more people, going that route. That's why they not in, ending up trying to sell stuff to these kids and get them to be, getting off and on, these TRTs and stuff like that, man, is sick. That's the way that they living. So, we calling it out. We see, they missed the ball and all that. Breaking it down, man. We got it all figured out, man. We at war. It's psychological warfare. It's more issues going on between gender than it is a race right now. But that's not the agenda that they want you to know. They try to erase it and try to make it seem like we in the old times or like people are really, praying and thinking about trying to harm others. That is right. It's not even really a majority. You know what I'm saying? It's more a minority than anything, and it's not, natural. It's not going to be something that we see in today's society for most people. That's only just, some people are snapping, It's more like some of those isolated incidents, that people was going through, and that's what happened. It's not actually a whole race or a whole cause, a gang or something like that that's starting it, is different. So that's what you gotta realize, man. It's trying to, you know, it's all about the control, the containment. They want to have that influence over the children. Why you think when you are entertained, you minimum, you minimum that you living in and you getting through, that's really what they looking at. So they feeling you now, they want to be a part of that because they see you started your career, you getting it back, you put everything down and you let it be bygones, and now, you just living in your peace, man. Like if you look at the situation in New York with the uncle killed the niece, over inheritance, like it's greed, it's all about money. It's all about, people want to feed their family, but they don't want to take nothing from you. They don't want to be even, or, they don't want to see you doing good, living good for no reason. They want to be putting you down, trying to take you out the hood, kill you for something that, is not good. So, that's what they doing. And it's like, why would they even think about that? Why would they have that moment to where it's like, we got to take a step back. We got to look at it. We got to really open up and have that heart to heart and really, try to grow and, go with the solution and not, try to add fuel into the fire and, get more people into it. And now it's just turning into a whole Rico or, a whole, outlier to now people, they can't even be themselves. You can't even be kind because they mistake it for some kind of like you need assistance or you need help, they want you to be angry. And it's like you don't have no reason to because you just doing your thing, you just making your way up out of nothing pretty much, and you've been going through hell and just, trying to invest and, make sure you make the best of, well, just regular everyday living. And like I said, the situations, the details, everybody got opinions. There's always going to be critics and, people who want to see, well, what you up to and, what you got going on. So now you got hugs, you try not to get rug pulled and, you stay above, you stay cool. You know what I mean? Like you use your favorite tools to get deep, man. And you see them pools, them beaches, the bacterias. It's like parasites. It's really a plague right now. People don't even see the curses and the Bible as the prophecy. Was read and the philosophies and everybody's trying to be preachers now and pastors. And, they want to try to breathe and leave and have laughter for people who are struggling. They see you and they need to really be humbled, man. God is humbling everybody, who never knew or never thought, they would be going through these situations before. Now you see, one to one every day, more and more people just going to the gun. They living by it, they dying by it, they punishing you for being a man. That's one of the things that you're gonna see people get locked up for in the near future, man. That's the plan. It's like that's why they trying to manipulate and do these tests on these testosterone and all of this stuff so they can get the best, results and the plug. So now, they can try to exalt those resources and try to, get you caught up. And they hope, that they got that notoriety, they got that good stuff, that they want to try to get you to buy and try to get you to produce, but it's rough, you see like the moves, and they not slick. They think they clutch. Like LeBron, you just seen he got that 42 in that St. John's, or one of them games like that, that he was in. So I mean, you could tell, man, dudes is thirsty. That's what they want to do. So you can't be mad at them. You just gotta handle your candy, man.